On today's episode, wait, it sold how many copies? Should have told me Spider-Man's just a little bit. It looks like Solo's back on the menu, boys. You can have a little relisting as a treat. So get the hell off of the SES, don't make this any more difficult, and let's dive on in.
Launch initiated.
Hello, everyone. Drowl here, and today we're going to go over a number of things that have occurred over the last few days. It's been a little bit slow at the end of the week. Not a whole lot of activity coming out of the devs. I think they've kind of got their heads down, working on a lot of things. Still no big news out of the Sony relisting, delisting ordeal. That's still up in the air. But we do have a few things to talk about today. It'll be a bit of a shorter episode than usual, but still plenty of interesting things to go over. So let's begin, and we'll start with the failed major order. We did fail to kill 2 billion bots. Quite a tall order, much harder than 2 billion bugs. We had a bit of a boost on the 2 billion bugs. Of course, it was bugged, and we were getting quadruple the count of kills for that. And we got that, heck, before I could even finish my day job. That major order was already complete. I didn't even get to participate in that major order. I put plenty of time in on this one, and we still came up quite short. I think we were only at about 78%, 78, 79. As I can see as I scroll through the comments here on Twitter, that's what people are estimating we were at as far as percentage-wise for that major order. And that means we did not get the anti-tank mine stratagem, which I was looking forward to trying out. So that, surely they're not just going to toss that in a bin. That will probably come about through some other means. Who knows if they'll make us wait months or weeks or days? Who knows? I'm sure we'll find out soon. But after failing that, we did get a new major order. And we'll take a look at that now. So, with this new major order, kind of strange wording with this, actually. Automatons have invaded large swaths of territory. The TCS failed, and we've got the super colony of the Terminids. And now the Super Earth government wants to put all hands on deck, conscript almost all the citizens who are able-bodied, bring everybody into the table, get all industries involved. And they say in here, this underlined line here, all actions thus far have merely been special military operations. Well, I don't know if some people are reading into that strangely, like it's been exercises or simulations or something like that, but if you know about the verbiage in the game, the campaigns, the 3 mission campaigns that we do are called operations. So, of course, they're special military operations. That's what they've always been called. That's the nature of the game. That's what they're called. So, I don't know. The copy on this is a little weird. And if you actually read the whole thing, it's a bit sloppy. The writing seems a little hasty here. I gotta criticize Arrowhead a little bit on this copy and just the bit of confusion it has caused in the community. This seems like a bigger conspiracy than it is, but this seems like standard fare. You know, special military operations. Of course, any military operation is going to be a special military operation. That doesn't seem to have really any significance to me in my reading of this, so I'm not sure why the community has really glommed onto that. But this does mention and lead to speculation of a few different things. So it says they're gonna bring all these recruits in, these CF recruits. I think this has to do with some leaked material and some additional stratagems that was shown a few months ago. Some people are speculating, well, maybe we're bringing in the Xbox players. That would be a major, a big change if that were actually the case. And I think we would hear a little bit more of that external of the game if that was actually coming to fruition. So I am very skeptical that it has anything to do with Xbox players. I am much more thinking it has to do with that leaked stratagem we saw a few months ago or weeks ago. I'm sorry, weeks ago. And I'm betting that's what this is going to be. Now, another part of this, the the game itself in the last 3 months has sold 12 million copies and making it the fastest selling PlayStation game ever. Faster than God of War, faster than Spider Man, faster than any exclusive Final Fantasy or Horizon Zero Dawn or Ghost of Tsushima, anything like that. And this is out of nowhere. It is like Pow World or any some of these sneak up on you hits that have come out of nowhere. And I remember the way I followed this game was I saw it at a Game Awards or just some kind of aggregate media game showcase, right? And I said, okay, it's some kind of Starship Troopers type of game, right? Didn't think much of it. I knew it was a sequel. I'd never heard of the original game. I was like, well, if I never heard of the original game, it can't be that amazing, right? You would think if it were an amazing game, you'd have heard of it, right? And we got closer and closer to release. Didn't think anything of it. Missed out on the pre-order as so many other people did as well. And it's such a shame because the pre-order shaders are so cool. It's a shame we don't have an opportunity to get that stuff now. Game came out, and then you just start seeing a few people start streaming it. You start seeing some memes come about, and you start seeing these moments from the game, and you're like, wow, that actually looks like a lot of fun. You watch some people actually play the game for an extended period of time, and you see, wow, this looks like nothing I've ever seen. It looks like playing a movie. And then you finally buy the game, get into it, and that's exactly what it is. And then it just spread like fire from there. So the fact that this is the biggest PlayStation Studios game ever is incredible. And just the other night, in fact, I think it was last night, a guy that I follow who used to work for Game Trailers, and he makes a great show that I watch. I've seen every episode. I keep up with him. I subscribe to him on YouTube. Named Kyle Bosman posted an interview with an industry analyst who I've seen around on Twitter quite a bit as well, named Matt Piscatella, and they went over kind of the state of the game industry. Um, with all the layoffs and the this desperate need for growth that we're seeing in the game industry, where they're really having to come up with creative ways to make up numbers for shareholders, as we're seeing this discussion recently about Xbox is potentially going to make Call of Duty a Game Pass day one release, this next iteration of it. And people are chomping at the bit for a big game like GTA 6 and things like that. But they talk about these surprise hits like Helldivers 2. And I'm actually going to put a link to this interview. I don't want to play it on this video because I don't want to kind of cannibalize them or anything like that. But I'm going to put a link to this interview in the description of this video, and I'd encourage you to check that out. Definitely check out Kyle and his content. Delayed Input is a hilarious show on the gaming industry as a whole and gaming news. I love that show, so definitely check that out if you've never seen it. But they talk about Helldivers 2 throughout this interview, how it's affected the industry, how it's affected Sony and Microsoft, and things like that. So it's a very interesting watch, and I'd encourage you to check that out. The next thing we have here is this meme that's been going around. I'm sure you've seen it. This interaction with the group. If you play with randoms, I'm sure you've had a similar experience to this, but we have this group of players, I assume 3 people, or I'm sure it was, yeah, 3 people bringing in a fourth, and they got to get rid of the random. And they have the courtesy, at least, to say something to him first. And they say, Toga says, sorry, Drimsky, we're playing friends only. I have to kick you. And Drimsky so sadly says, I'm Frend. And Toga says, don't make this more difficult. And I assume a kick came soon after. And the aftermath of this is Drimsky very quickly, I'm sure after this was posted, his Steam friends list is now completely full. You cannot even add this guy anymore. And he made a comment later. I don't know if it's in this thread, but he said that, yeah, somebody told him that he became a meme, and then his Steam friend list just blew up. So what I'm curious about is, what is the other side of this? What kind of response or backlash is Tolga getting? Is because we all know that that's got to be a factor here. Like, is he getting some kind of threats or just toxicity thrown his way for, what he did to Drimsky? But, in reality, this is a major courtesy to at least say something to a random before you kick them. So nobody can fault Toga for this whatsoever. So that's funny, but I do feel for all the people involved with this. All right. Let's look at this next piece of news. This does have to do with the Sony debacle. Sony and Valve, I guess, Sony Steam has relisted some countries available for sale for Helldivers 2. Now, the countries, American Samoa, Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, Puerto Rico, and U.S. Virgin Islands, what you'll notice about all those names is they are all just U.S. territories. They were most likely just delisted by mistake or an overabundance of caution, something of that nature. But we did get, 5 countries back as far as those who can purchase and play the game. So that's a little bit of movement. It's not really anything definitive, just because of where those are and the fact that they're U.S. territories. So it doesn't really tell us much about the state of where things are headed in this fight. But it's some kind of piece of news. So we will tell you about it here. All right. After that, let's go into the information we got out of Discord. So, Kada says on Discord this week, hello, I'm not sure if this has been asked before, but I thought I'd ask you guys anyway. Is there a risk to using community-made mods like the ones on Nexus? Last thing I want is the game to ban me because I wanted to look like a clone trooper. And if you notice, I showed last episode screenshots of Toy Story, Disney related mods, Halo mods, and Star Wars mods that are local side mesh swaps, client side only. But you'll also notice if you do play the game on PC, you've got In-Guard Protect, kernel level anti-cheat. Those kind of fight against each other. And obviously Arrowhead gives the only response they can give, the safest response they can give to kind of abandon any kind of liability here. And Twinbeard says, hi, since we can't be fully sure what the anti-cheat will or won't pick up and don't want to risk any repercussions for players, we recommend not using any mods for Helldivers 2. And really, they can't say anything outside of that, because if they say, yeah, go for it, and you get banned, what can they do? They'll be at the mercy of Sony and the seller and what country you bought it in and exactly what were you doing and cheaters trying to use that as an excuse to undo their bans. I was just playing. I had some footage in a video the other day. I was playing. I ran into my first cheater who was flying around the map with some gun I'd never seen that was one-shotting everything. He actually got banned in the game, and it said he had been court-martialed. It was kind of interesting. I'd never seen that before. But it'd just open up an entire can of worms if they advocate for this or say that it's okay. So outside of a wink and a nudge from Johan, you're not going to get any additional level of approval for this. I don't think at all. All right, move on to the next slide here. So Air Automaton says, is the patrol spawn rate change, which they announced recently that they are going to do some reverting of the spawn rate changes that made it kind of insane if you weren't in a 4-man group. He says, is the patrol spawn rate change to do with reverting back to nonlinear 1/6, which it was before that patch? Or are you going back to 1/6 but keep it linear, or a quarter but non-linear? He's kind of getting into the weeds with some math on how they're going to handle that. And Twinbeard says, I could probably dig that detail up from the devs, but not right now. Let's just say revert to as they were before, but possibly with some minor tweaks is what we're going for. And that makes sense. I'm sure they're going to change something that's not going to be quite the same as it was before the patch, but it'll be similar. They did say it was too low before their patch, so they might add just some kind of multiplier in there to make things feel a little bit different. And it's so funny because a lot of the solo content creators just within the last few days are starting to say, you know what? I kind of like this crazy, insane spawn rates. I kind of want to keep it now. So it's interesting how that's evolved. All right. Next here, Mr. Offspring says, keep those high spawn rates for difficulty 10. And Twinbeard says, I think we might have some things in store for the elite players who just coast through everything as well. My lips are sealed. So here is something interesting. This is kind of a little bit of a reveal that they might have some kind of toggle or multiplier or optional difficulty setting around the corner for people who want it. And that's very exciting. So I don't know if you play any games like Path of Exile or something like that, but Path of Exile has things like hardcore mode, ruthless mode, to where, you know, if you die, you lose everything. Diablo has that as well. Or ruthless, where like drops and loot are super scarce. So if they do things like reducing the amount of reinforcements you get or increasing resupply timers, things like that, changing the stratagem timers up, different multipliers like that that you might be able to toggle on or select. That'd be interesting. And that seems like what Twinbeard might be alluding to here is kind of maybe a customization of difficulty. Be very interesting. All right. The Fearless says, Dear developers, thank you for your work. I ask you to pay attention to the tenderizer. In the trailer, it does more damage than it does now. And Twinbeard says, Yep, if I recall correctly, it's in the latest patch notes that it'll be addressed, but it hasn't been yet. And he's exactly right. If you look at the latest patch notes on the Discord, and we pull those up, you can see what was fixed just recently is they got rid of that Easter bunny looking skin on the tenderizer where it was all like pastel, white and teal looking. It looked terrible. And now it's got more of that kind of gray gunmetal look to it, which is nice and matches what was in the trailers as well. But down here in the known issues, they have added that the AR-61 tenderizer deals too little damage and is not in the final state we are intending. So it definitely seems that we're going to be getting a damage buff to the tenderizer. Now, we know that the agitator does 80 damage a shot, and it has, a 25 round magazine? Currently, the tenderizer has a 35 round magazine, I want to say, and 60 damage a shot. So Where are we going to land with that? Are we going to land 70 damage and not change the magazine size? I would really be surprised if they go up to 80, because then what are you doing with the educated then? Then that's going to lose its place. So I'm thinking maybe 70 is where we're going to land at with the tenderizer damage, unless they do something with armor penetration. But this right here specifically mentions only damage, which means to me, they're probably only going to tweak damage. All right, so that's all I have for you guys today. Hopefully, we'll get some more news over the weekend, and I'll have some better updates for you on Tuesday. And I appreciate you guys sticking with me here watching. I have a great video out on reinforcement etiquette. You should check that out. Hopefully it shows up in the end cards here. If you're still watching, I appreciate you. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.